Hi everyone. In the previous class, we have seen the concept of operators like arithmetic operators, logical operators, relational operators, etc. In addition to all these kind of operators, we have seen the difference between triple equal to operator and double equal to operator. Comparison operator like double equal to operator is going to compare the values only, and whereas coming to triple equal to operator, it is going to check the data type of the variable in addition to the corresponding value. This is the only difference between triple equal to operator and double equal to operator. And also we have seen the type of operator, ternary operator, all these things. In addition to this, we have seen the conditional statements like if else if, switch cases, all these with an examples. Then we have seen looping statements like for loop, while loop, do while, along with some basic differences between all these kind of loops. And also we have seen two more new loops. One is a for off loop, which is meant for accessing the values of an object, whereas a foreign loop is meant for accessing the keys of an object. And then we have seen a basic example related to the break and continue keyword along with the concept of pop-up boxes. For example, if you would like to take some input from the user, then I can go with the method called prompt method. Okay, fine. This is not what we have seen in the previous class. Now in today's class, we'll see further concept, an important concept, that is functions. Functions. Okay, fine. So functions means it is used to particular task. Perform particular task again and again, again and again. Then we can go with the concept called functions, meaning that, for example, we'll have various kind of advantages are there. One is reusability. If you want to reuse the same code again and again, then I can go with the concept of functions. Because of reusability, we'll get less lines of code also. Less lines of code also. I mean, so if you would like to do a particular task again and again, then I can go with the functions. So generally we'll have two types of functions are there. Two types of functions are there, like built-in functions, and another type is user defined functions. User defined functions. Okay, what do you mean by built-in functions? These are the functions which are already given by the language developers, and our task is to only use these kind of functions. Like for example, alert is a kind of a function which is meant for to provide warning message to the user. The backend code is already written by the developers itself. Alert function or something like prompt, etc. Okay, like for example, log is also a kind of a method, or random is also a kind of a function. All these are various kind of built-in functions which are given by the language developers. Coming to user defined functions, these are the functions which should be developed by the developers. Okay, fine. I have one question. When we go for built-in functions, and why the developers have gone for built-in functions? Meaning that if any task, if any task is common for all people, all people, then they made that task as a function, that function as built-in function. If it is specific to, if the task is specific to group of people only, then I can go for not defining it as built-in function. This is the way they differentiate the functions. Okay, fine. So how we are going to define these built-in functions? In Python, we have a keyword called def keyword. Through this keyword we can define a function. Whereas coming to JavaScript, whereas coming to JavaScript, we can use a keyword called function keyword. Function keyword, guys, remember this is case sensitive, so you have to write in small letters only. Function keyword. Okay, fine. uh, Function keyword followed by function name, followed by function name, followed by list of parameters which it wants to access. For example, p1 comma p2 and so on, pn, followed by body of the function, I mean list of the statements. Okay, fine. So this is the way you can define a function. How we are going to call this function? By simply using the function name, I can able to call the function p1 comma p2 comma and so on. These are the parameters which you would like to pass. Okay, let's see an example here. For example, uh, I have csc.js file which is already connected to csc.html file. Fine. I would like to write a function which is meant for to print student is sleeping. Okay, for example, that function I need to write function. I am going to write the function name as sleep, and this function is not receiving any parameters. I am simply writing like this. Then I need to write set of statement console dot log of student is sleep. Student is sleeping. This is the way you can define a function. Now, once we define a function, it won't execute directly. We need to call it explicitly through function invocation. That invocation we can do with the help of function name followed by list of parameters if there are any. So right now, as there are no parameters for us, then I will simply call this function. Now if I execute this code F5, you will get a student is sleeping. This is the way you are going to write the function. But actually guys, in the real time, this function cannot be called by the user manually. Instead, what will happen is user will perform certain actions on the web page. Based upon these actions, we need to make certain kind of modifications, like I need to change the background color of the web page, I need to insert some image somewhere. Like that, we need to perform some operations based upon some operations done by the user. So for that, what we can do is we need to create some kind of user interface in the website. So right now, for to show some kind of operation for you, I am trying to create one button for you. Input type equal to button. I am trying to define some value for that value as click here for sleep method. For sleep method. That's it. Observe. If I am going to execute this code, if I click here, button created. If I click here, will it be performing any operation? No. When the user clicks here on this button, we need to perform some operation. For that, we have an attribute called onClick attribute. OnClick equal to, I would like to display my student is sleeping method. Now I am going to call sleep method. This then student is sleeping method will be executed. Observe, if I click here, that data will be displayed. For example, I'm trying to define one more method called a reading method. Then I will write student is reading. Here, in place of this one, I am going to create one more button. One more button. Here, click here for reading. Based upon that user action, the corresponding methods are going to be executed. Observe, refresh, click here for reading, student is reading. Click here for sleeping, student is sleeping. Like this, based upon certain actions, our website should be uh, interacted. So that is the reason we are trying to define user interfaces for the user in the web page. Okay, so this way we are trying to work with. So all these kind of operations we will see in the further classes. Right now I would like to explain the concept of functions only. Okay, fine. Now I call it this function. Okay, fine. Now, for example, instead of displaying this statement directly here, I will return this data. I will return this data using a keyword called return keyword. So the purpose of return keyword is to return some data. That data can be any number data, or it can be an array, or it can be any function, or it can be anything to the invoking function. Now what I will do, console dot log of, I am going to write sleep. I'm going to write sleep. Now also we'll get the same answer, student is sleeping. sleeping with return. I am trying to write return. Student is sleeping with return. So this way also you can able to do. So not only I am trying to return something as a string, I can return some 5 into 6. You will get 5 into 6 value. Meaning that in JavaScript, actually in C language, we are trying to define the return type also. If we are not writing anything like, then we need to define void. If you are writing integer value, we need to write return type as integer. Like that we need to define. But as Java is loosely coupled language, we need to define the return type also. We can return any kind of data at a time. Okay, guys, if I write like console.log of hi, will it be executed? No, it won't be executed. Meaning that after return keyword, after the return statement, if you write n number of lines of code also, those lines of code won't be executed. Okay. So this is the way you can work with the return keyword. Yeah, now I am going to comment this return keyword and trying to take this statement. Now, as I am not passing any parameters, I am not giving any receiving parameters also here. Now, for example, if I am passing 5, my student is sleeping for 5 hours. Then what I can do, I need to define some receiving parameters here. Okay, in C language, we need to specify data type followed by the variable name. But here we need to specify the data type. By default, it is going to consider the data type by the interpreter. Okay, for example, student is sleeping for, I need to define as P. Then you will get the answer as student is sleeping for 5 hours. Like for example, let me take for 5 hours. Sleeping for 5 hours. Like this you can pass. For example, I am going to pass Krishna. Krishna. Here I am going to take one more parameter Q. That parameter I am going to print. Instead of student, I am trying to define Q plus. Krishna is sleeping for 5 hours. Krishna is sleeping for 5 hours. You can randomly pass certain value. For example, I am not interested to pass a value here. Then you will get as undefined is sleeping for 5 hours. Meaning that if you are not passing any value for this parameter, it is going to take the default as undefined. I don't want like that. I want to define the default as student for a particular parameter. If I am not passing anything, it is going to define as student is sleeping for 5 hours. For example, if I am passing as Krishna, then it is going to define as Krishna is sleeping for 5 hours. Meaning that if the user is passing parameters for the given variables, then that will be considered. If the user is not passing any parameters to the variable, then it is going to take the default value. This is the way you can able to work with this. Not only like this value you can take randomly from the user input. For example, instead of taking 5, I would like to take it from the user interest. For example, how we are going to do that? Where something like k equal to, I can able to use prompt method, right? Prompt method is meant for to get input from the user. Enter or else how many hours are you sleeping? How many hours are you sleeping? Now that variable I am going to pass here. Observe, it is going to ask for how many hours are you sleeping. If I press enter 8, Krishna is sleeping for 8 hours. If I refresh, if I press enter 10 and click OK, Krishna is sleeping for 10 hours. Not only like this, you can able to ask for the name also. Like this, you can able to work in the real time. Okay, fine. So this is what the introduction about like how to write a function and how to receive parameters, how to call a function, what is default parameter, all these things. Now, once again, I am going with copy this code and I am going to make it uncomment. I would like to introduce some further concepts. Yeah, guys, what I will do is you are going to generally call sleep of 6 comma quote 6 comma quote. Yes, this is the one way of representation of function, one way of defining function. I mean, this is first way of defining the function. There is another way you can define the function, same function, that I am making it as second way. Second way, what you will do is, instead of defining like this, you can go with this kind of representation. You can go with this kind of representation, and I am going to assign it to a variable called, once again, for example, let me take sleep variable. Sleep variable. Now what happened? Function. This is a kind of a function. This reference I copied to a variable called sleep variable. As this reference is related to function, now I can call this sleep as a kind of a function. Now also will get the same result. If I refresh, if Koti is sleeping for 6 hours. If I pass 7, you'll get Koti is sleeping for 7 hours. Like this you can able to work with. I mean, this is the second way of writing the functions. And there is a third way of writing the functions. That is through third way I'm writing as in the form of arrow functions. Guys, nowadays all are using these arrow functions because of these are performs very well. Performs very well. How we are going to write these arrow functions? Okay. So in order to avoid confusion for you, what I will do is I will take out the parameters. Student is sleeping for student is sleeping. That's it. Student is sleeping. I am not passing anything. You will get output as this one. If I made comment the second way also, this is the second way I am actually using. So for example, if you write student is sleeping, you will get. Now, what the developers thought is, in order to improve the performance, they made some other way of implementation, and the way is they removed this keyword, function keyword. Instead, they used arrow symbol after after parenthesis. Parenthesis. That's it. Now also you'll get the same answer. Student is sleeping with the arrow functions. You can observe student is sleeping with arrow functions. That's it. So this way you can able to write the arrow functions. So guys, I will let you know clearly how they did. Observe. Let me take one particular example once again. For example, I would like to check whether whether student is eligible for voting or not. Then what I can do, I can go with the first way of writing the function voting of. I am going to accept one parameter as age, and then I am going to write if student is eligible for voting, if age greater than 18, I can go with the console dot log of eligible eligible for voting eligible for voting. Else console dot log of not eligible for voting, not eligible for voting. Okay, fine. This is it. For example, I am going to pass voting of 19. Voting of 19. You will get the answer as eligible for voting. Eligible for voting. Okay. This is the first way of representation. So I don't want to go with this one. I want to go with the second way. How we are going to write? I am going to make reference to a variable, some variable called like voting, and then I am going to use keyword function keyword followed by list of parameters. So here it is going to accept age parameter, and the same code I am going to write here also. That's it. Now also it will work fine. Eligible for voting. If I pass as 18, pass 18, not eligible for voting. Okay, fine. For this, instead of writing this like second way of, I can go with the arrow functions. How we are going to write the arrow functions? By simply removing this keyword, or else let me go with copy. 1 minute. Let me go with copy and make comment. And now third way of writing. What they are going to do? We can simply remove the keyword function, and they just made arrow symbol here. Arrow symbol here. That's it. Now also you will get the same result. If I go with the 17, F5, not eligible for voting. If I go with 22, eligible for voting. But if I use arrow function, performance will be more. Performance will be more. Guys, observe. What I will do is, instead of writing these entire lines, instead of using this if else block, Can I go with the ternary operator? Yes. I can write it in a single line. What I can do, I can go with like this. As we have written in a single line, I can remove these blocks also, flower branches. Yes. Now also will get the same answer eligible for voting. As one more thing, as I am using only single parameter, I can remove this parameter also. Now also it will work fine. If I pass 17 or 18, that will work, not eligible for voting. Guys, one important, if you are passing more than one parameter, you have to compulsory pass in the form of parameters. Age comma, if I pass name also, age comma Krishna, age comma Krishna, uh, like for example name plus eligible for voting. Let me take for the sake 22. Now we'll get the answer as Krishna eligible for voting. Like this you can work with arrow functions. So arrow functions will yield more performance for you. Okay, fine. There is one more type of functions like anonymous functions. Anonymous functions. So what these anonymous functions means? In Java, we will have classes called anonymous classes in our class like this, right? Anonymous methods, all those things. Anonymous functions means these functions won't have any name. These functions doesn't have any name, and also these can be executed for only one time. Executed for only one time. Execute for only one time. That kind of functions will call it as anonymous functions. How we can write? For example, I would like to explain somewhat clearly for you. What I will do is I will take the second way and convert that into anonymous function. Try to observe. Actually, what happened? This is a kind of a function, and it is having a name called sleep. That is why I am calling it as sleep function. If I want to call for multiple times, I can able to call sleep of 8 comma Krishna, 8 comma Krishna. Then you will get the answers for that. Koti is sleeping for 7 hours, Krishna is sleeping for 8 hours. Like this, you can able to call it for multiple times, multiple times. But if we define any kind of anonymous functions, we cannot able to call for multiple times. We can able to use it for only one time because it doesn't having any name. So how we are going to do that is, I will remove this simply name. This name. Now this is a function, okay? This is a function. Is this function having any name? No. If I would like to call this function, how I can call? It is not possible for me to call, right? Yes, that is why I am calling this as anonymous function. That's it. Yes. So if you want to use it for you, then what I will do is I can go with like this syntax. This kind of syntax. Okay. Now I will cut this, and if I go for this, Koti is sleeping for 7 hours. If I pass here 8 hours. Okay, this is what we call it as anonymous functions. Guys, next time I would like to use the same function again and again. Can I, is it possible to use this function again and again? No, it is not possible, because if I want to reuse it again and again, I need to have a certain name for this function. There is no name. So that is why I can call it as anonymous function, and as well as it will be executed only for one time. Okay, fine. Yeah, fine guys. So now what I will do is I will take one more example, something like let me take something like function. I am trying to take count, so which will give more clarity for you regarding the function concept. Count of something like p, something like p. Okay, what this function will do is it is going to simply return p into p, simply return p into p. Now as it is a function, I can able to assign this function reference to another variable. Now what will happen? K contains the reference to the count function. reference to count function. Now we can call this count function in two ways, like console dot log of count of something like 5, you will get the answer as 25, right? 25. Or you can go with console dot log of, you can go with reference. What is that reference? Reference contains what? K of 7. K of 7, you will get answer as 25 and 49. So meaning that as the function is also a kind of object, you can simply assign function as variable. Assign function as variable. Now that reference will be copied to K. Now we can call that same as it is, like function. Okay, fine. So as in C language, we can pass the function name as parameters also to another function. So for example, to make it understood, you can use it as function name, you can pass it as parameter. How you can do? For example, let me take function. Let me take something like CSC. There is a function called CSC. Now this function will perform something. Let us explain later. Now I would like to call this CSC function by passing two parameters. What are those parameters? First parameter is K. What is this K? K is a reference of count function. Is reference of count function, and I am passing 3. What is the meaning of this one is, I would like to execute my count function for 3 times. My count function for 3 times. That is the meaning of this one. If I pass like k comma 2, I would like to execute my count function for 2 times. So that through function passing. So what I can do is, as I am passing here reference, I can here take some j comma yeah. Now this j contains what? J contains the reference of count. J contains reference of count. Now through this j, for this count function, I can pass this value here. I can pass this value here. Now what will happen, guys? K contains reference, that reference will be copied to j, meaning that j will be pointed to count function. For this count function, I can pass 2. Count of 2. If count of 2 call, 2 into 2, that is 4. 4 will be returned here. That 4 will be returned to here. So your answer will be 4. Your answer will be 4. For example, if you pass 3 here, your answer will be something like 9. J of 3. J means what? Count. That is 3 into 3, that is 9. For example, I would like to make like this. J of L. Now what will happen? You will get the different answer as 81. Why 81 so? J of 3 will be executed. What is J of 3? Count of 3. Count of 3 means 3 into 3, 9. 9 you will get here. This entire thing will be replaced by 9. That 9, now again once again it is calling J of 9. What is J of 9? 9 into 9, that is 81. That 81 will be returned to this particular location. Okay. So like this, you can pass function also a parameter to another function. Parameter to another function. Okay, guys. Sometimes what you can do is you can pass arrays also parameters. Okay, fine. So that concept we will see in the further classes. Arrays as parameters to the function. Okay, fine. Guys, that's it for today's class.